Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the ideaXme Show, the global podcast available in 40 countries worldwide, whose mission is to move the human story forward. I'm Andrea Macdonald, the founder of ideaXme, and I'm here with Kazuhiro Gomi, the CEO and President of NTT Research. Stay with us to learn of NTT Research's plans to upgrade reality. In the meantime, Gomi-san, in your words, who are you?
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for your introduction, Andrea. My name is Kazuhiro Gomi, and I'm glad to be here. I'm the CEO of NTT Research. I'm lifelong very interested in technology advancement over the years. I was once running internet divisions of NTT as a whole. So I'm very familiar with that technology and also the business side. But again, if you ask me who you are, that's where I'm interested in, and then I'm to some extent certainly proud of.
NTT Nippon Telecom was founded 100 years ago. You have over 300,000 staff operating in 80 countries worldwide, offering services in 190 countries worldwide. You spend 3.6 billion per annum on research, which puts quite a focus on your role as President and CEO of NTT Research. Can you take us through the first year of what you've founded, which is effectively a Silicon Valley startup company? I think you started with 30 people within the context and with the financing of one of the biggest telecoms companies in the world.
Our focus of NTT Research is that to focus on the basic research, fundamental research areas, rather than the product development. So the difference between the two is the product development tend to be shorter time frame that for the next year, you have to take this new idea to the market. Our research, on the other hand, is more longer term, 5 years or further down the road. So we call ourselves, our mission is we defined as upgrade reality. And reality in this sense is that it's more like a standard, where you are living in, that's the reality. We want this whole reality, whole standard to the next level. That's what we are trying to do. And then back to the Silicon Valley startups and many R&D companies doing, I don't think there are many instances, many cases where we are, those teams that formed up to do those basic long-term research. So I think it's a bit unique from that perspective, but we believe that those long-term research is very important. So that's what we are focusing on and we are doing. And it is certainly true that NTT with the long histories and certainly we have resource to spend some money for that, allocate the money for that. So we feel that this is our missions for NTT, of course, but for the whole humankind as well. I think it might be a little bit bigger statement than really it is, but we feel that that's what we are doing.
You have 3 research arms at the moment, physics and informatics, medical informatics, and cryptography. Can you talk us through those 3 areas and the key things that you're focusing on within those areas? For example, we had Ilan Komargodski on the show, one of your senior researchers in cryptography, and he spoke about blockchain and how you are looking at technologies to protect the user. There's been a lot of talk about decentralization and finding a way for users to be able to choose how much of their data they share with third parties. It would be really interesting from your perspective if you could talk of that and summarize the other two areas.
Yeah, certainly. So yes, we have three areas, and then let's start with this cryptography stuff. So needless to say, with the more connected world that we are in a way living in, and then I think you will perhaps foresee that the more connected we are going to become, which is in many ways good. But on the other flip side of the coin is that everybody's start concerning about the securities, privacies, and so on and so forth. So how to protect your privacy and security. So one of the lab is cryptography lab. And we have about 15 top-notch researchers of the world working on that, the new cryptography technologies and algorithm. And which can be used for blockchain. But let's just focus on the cryptography itself. Cryptography is obviously that it's like a well, basically the encryption. So try not to, other people can read this information or data. That's the whole purpose of it. And as you can imagine, what's the research for cryptography? There are two angles. One is to make the cryptography more robust and more difficult to break into. That's certainly some researchers doing towards that direction. But at the same time, we have another set of researchers working on a bit differently, meaning that how to make the cryptography encryption more, I think, use my word, more flexible, easier to typically, you know, cryptography and then key password for the files and data, that's a kind of onerous, to be quite honest, for everyone. So, and then, but can you do it a little bit better and more seamless and then, and so on and so forth. So that's another aspect that the researchers are trying to find that the technologies. And along the line, I think that some of the interesting technologies that the researchers are working on is something like when you have a key to open the encrypted information, you start seeing all of the information that was encrypted. But in reality, when you have, say, some documentations of some documentations, and you want to just show, obviously, say 80% of the information, but you want to hide, say 20%, so redact of the documents. So those kind of things happens quite a bit. And so some of the encryption technology that the people, our researchers are working on is allowing such things happen. So if I share the document to you, Andrea, you know, say 20% is redacted. But if I want to share to some other party who is less trusted, for example, I can just reveal only 60% of the document information or something like that. I can create different key to give you, and then they get that right kind of information access. So it's more flexibilities that we can create. So that's one example, but the researchers are working on to make the encryption more flexible nowadays, and then maximizing, protecting that the security and privacy, yet you can allow sharing the information as much as possible. So kind of move the needle to the next level. But other two areas that we are working on, physics and informatics. So this is very interesting areas also that we are focusing on the quantum physics. So, and then use that the quantum physics into the information processing or the computations. So to make those two couple of words together, you create the quantum computer. That's what it is. And the quantum computer has been a buzzword in the industries and the research area over the last perhaps 20 years. And we have a group of researchers who has been in this field for a long time. And then also there are some new, younger generation researchers. So we have a very nice teams of, well, I should not say old, but more senior and then the younger up and coming teams together, and to create that a little bit different kind of quantum computers than some other has been doing. So our approach is that rather than making a very generic all-purpose new computer, we just focusing on a little bit more specific applications. The type of application we're focusing on is called combinatorial optimization problem. So that's the kind of big words here, but basically make today's computer is great, but still there are many very complex problems out there that today's computer cannot solve. Or maybe I should say that if you apply today's computer, it takes very long time, such as to solve a single problem, it takes years for the current computer. But by using some of the quantum physics and then new technology, this years of requirement for the computation will become seconds or minutes or even seconds. So years become minutes or seconds is a vast improvement. So that's what this team is working on. And then this team has many experts in physics and then some computations and computer science. So it's a kind of good mixture of those, and then try to come up with this new vastly fast computer for this particular problem. So that's the second thing. And the third one, medical and health informatics is a third area that we are working on. This one, in a way, I'm foreseeing that we'll be utilizing that outcome from the crypto lab and the quantum computing lab.
So there'll be a crossover.
But apply those things to obviously the medical field. And then what we are looking at is that we call it bio-digital twin. So digital twin is that kind of term a lot of people start using. So digital twin meaning that creating some physical objects, its twin, the copy of the replica of this physical thing into the cyberspace. So simulator, you can call the simulator, you can call the replica, or yeah, those kind of things. So once you create that, the same thing in a cyberspace or in a cloud, basically, you can simulate what's going to happen for this physical thing for the future. So that's the notion of the digital twin. Create your own twin so it
has enormous scope in terms of it not being necessary to test drugs on humans, it not being possibly necessary in the future to test drugs on animals, testing smart drugs, predictive, leading to greater longevity.
Exactly.
It is incredible, and there's been quite a lot of publicity about that. It's headed up by Dr. Joe Alexander, is that correct?
Yes, that's it. That's that. He is just about a year ago, 6 months ago, he joined with us, and he's heading this project. And yes, and so all of the above that you mentioned, that once we get there, I think there are enormous impact for everyone in the human life, for longevities and then your health, and yeah. So anyway, so that's our plan for the medical and informatics. Yeah.
What I found so striking in having a look at NTT was, as we said at the beginning of this conversation, although you are backed by a global telecoms giant, how close it is almost to an extended network of universities, because you have many collaborations with American universities like Caltech, Stanford, Berkeley, institutes, MEI, and now more recently with the university in Munich. A few of your researchers have said that they've been given total freedom in the same way that they would be if they were to choose a subject for their PhD, in exploring areas that excite them and interest them and spark their curiosity and imagination. That's incredible. Amazing to have achieved that impact on the staff within just 1 year. Can you talk of how you've done that?
Yes. So a couple of things I would like to point out. So yeah, when we have a big goal, we have defined a big goal. And to achieve that, we need a lot of interesting ideas and expertise in many different areas. So to accomplish that, we need the good partners, like those leading research institutions like Stanford or Caltech, MIT, Technical University of Munich, and all those. So we have, over the years, we actually created like 11 or 12 different joint research agreements. And so we start working closely with those folks. So that's one, good partner we need to have. And also, so far we have about 30 top-notch researchers in our team altogether. And since from my management kind of philosophy perspective, we are reaching a big goal, and then nobody knows how to get there. Really, nobody has done it. And then in a way, those 30 people gathered together under NTT Research, they're experts in each area. I can basically define the goal or some milestones in between, but not too much detail. But from my point of view, rather than just telling them how to climb the mountain, they know how to know. They have a much better chance to reach to the mountaintop. So let them decide what to do. Actually, that's better off from my perspective. So and then give them right kind of resources that they need to climb the mountain. So that's how we've been operating since we started this company.
Yesterday, the Congressional Hearing took place. Yesterday being the I think the 29th of July.
29th of July, yes.
And it was the first time that Jeff Bezos was in attendance at such a meeting. Facebook was there, Amazon, Apple, and Google. One of the key things that they wanted to get across in being under the spotlight was that they're American companies operating for the good of Americans. And as somebody who doesn't live in America, but is affected by these global tech giants, it felt a bit strange. Now, I understand from the context of that was that they're trying to prove that they're not creating monopolies, that they're being careful with people's data. It's a matter of trust. As I said, as somebody living outside America, it grated somewhat. That in contrast to the way NTT Global and NTT Research present themselves as truly global, truly international, operating for the greater good, for everybody's good. I was just wondering what your perspective was on the hearings, how the CEOs presented themselves, and what you anticipate coming out of these hearings in terms of new laws and so on.
So yeah, this is a obviously very hot subject, and it's kind of interesting from the perspective how those well, obviously those hearings took place. My understanding is mainly from the concerns of the monopoly situation. They control too much. They have too much power to control everything, right? That's the biggest, I'm sure, biggest concerns why that hearing took place. It's a bit interesting that similar discussion happened in the United States and Japan and all over the place, actually many countries in the world, with regard to the telecom companies in 30, 40 years ago. And as a result of it, like for the case of NTT, for the case of, well, it was a big thing in America that the AT&T, mighty big AT&T company was broken into different pieces, and then so on and so forth. And NTT did something similar, not as drastic as America's case. So one observation from my point of view is that, so 30 years ago, that was the case for the telecom companies. And then I think that everything has shifted to those big IT giants. It is true that all of those companies are American born company, but at the same time, I see that they have many employees and resources pretty much all over the place in the world. I don't know, and I'm not even in a position how many countries they have employees or anything like that, but I know that they have a pretty strong team, all of them, all of those companies in Japan, for example. So it is pretty globalized. And then the other one, I have to say that driving a lot of innovations and some of the innovations a lot of people enjoy today and get the benefit out of, it wouldn't have been possible without their presence. So obviously good and bad. We definitely need them, and then they drove us to, in a good way, to this point. However, they certainly have so much power in many different ways. So I'm not in a position to make what's the right next step from the policy perspective, but the concerns, I kind of agree with that. There's got to be some right balance needs to be, strike out on this discussions.
And hopefully with the NTT's research in the area of quantum physics, informatics, and cryptography, it will lead to there being less of a gray area in terms of people's data, and we won't get situations like Cambridge Analytica and so on again. Of course, there's a place for legal systems and politicians and politics to play their part too, which leads me on to the next question. Exponential technology, which is the area in which you, NTT Research, are working in, needs, one could argue, exponential ethics, reboot of ethics. Does NTT Global and NTT Research involve itself in lobbying to have systems and mechanisms in place, laws in place, ultimately, that can ensure that the maximum number of people benefit from progress and, of course, curtail any risks?
So if you ask me that, am I involved in those lobbying? And I think the short answer is no. Right now, we are more focusing on those pure science and engineering. But certainly our goal is that again, what we are working on is that the basic research, and once those things or the fundamentals of those things become available, we certainly want to share those ideas and then outcomes with everybody. Well, how to share is certainly some questions that we have to sort it out. So from the NTT, large entity corporations perspective, we have launched new initiatives to kind of work with all the IT and the related industry players. We can all join in a new project called IOWN, IOWN, Innovative Optical Wireless Network. So that's the name of the initiatives. That partnership is basically open to anybody, and then we will share that out, some products out of product or the outcome from those work through these initiatives. So for the better, basically to create a better world for everyone.
You're a Japanese-owned company based in America, collaborating with a multitude of nationalities from that base in America, Silicon Valley. As a comparison to other telecoms companies, how do you compare yourselves? What is your unique selling proposition?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, we are probably one of the top 3 or top 4 telecom companies in the world. NTT has a couple of interesting, unique points. One is certainly is that we have we call it full stack service. From the business perspective, full stack service. So telecommunication networks, certainly we do, including wireless and the global networks and all that. But we do have a team who can do a lot of application integrations and like ERP systems. So more of not so much on the network telecommunications, but it's more like a IT services company. IT services we can provide. So we integrate all of those together. That is kind of rare, in my understanding, amongst all the telecom carriers. Certainly that's one. And then the second one, I think I've already talked much, but the strong R&D team, I'm pretty comfortable to say we are one of the best at amongst all the telecom carriers of the old notions. If you compare those companies, probably we have that one of the strongest R&D teams amongst those companies that in the world. So focusing on the new technology innovations, and then also we have the full stack.
So you're now leading one of the most cutting edge research divisions of a telecoms company worldwide. Who helped you on this journey to reach this point? We like to ask this on the ideaXme show. With whom did you connect richly to move your human story forward, your work story even, to get to this point in life?
When I joined NTT 35 years ago, I wanted to do some research, and then more specifically to the voice recognition, voice processing. That was my interest. So that's how I started. And I think that's certainly the case of the large organizations. There are many senior people, and then they're working, teach me how to do many basic things from the not just for the research, how to do the research and science, but also that how to be a good businessman as well. So a more well-rounded thing I was taught, definitely for the first, say, 5 years after I joined the company. Every day I learned something new. And I came to the United States in 16 years ago, 2004. And so prior to that, I've been working on a couple of different global projects. I found that so many different diversities, different groups, different people from different country, different background. I found it so interesting to learn how they approach the business, how they approach the project. One turning point to me was that when I had a chance to hear Lou Gothner. He was the IBM chairman back then in like 1999. His speech, and I was very impressed with the way he delivered the message, and I felt that I want to become someone like that in the future in sometime in my career. So certainly that was kind of like my one of the goal image.
Is there anyone now that you would like to meet?
Well, that's a good question. I have a lot of people in my list that I would like to meet, but I am always kind of looking at like Andrea Macdonald. I think many of the state leaders, country leaders, I think especially more Andrea Macdonald, that she is one of the most articulate about what she does, and then she's very decisive on many of the decisions. But yet, I think she is also listening to the people. At least from my perspective, that's how I take her. I am interested in meeting those great leader, and then I would like to understand their leadership philosophy through some one-on-one conversation or something like that. Well, if you can arrange me something like that, that would be not wonderful.
To summarize, how if all your plans go according to how you would like, how do you see NTT Research will create a better world, will make life easier and better for most people? If the plans for the cryptography lab work out, people will be able to be online and worry less about the privacy of their data. Mm-hmm. With the health informatics division, people will hopefully live healthier lives. What is the time span of all of this, do you think?
Well, that's a good question, but well, for the cryptography, I think it's relatively short, maybe depending upon what specifically, but it can be like a 3 to 5 years that we just start seeing some of the results in your daily life. For the medical stuff, is a bit more bigger project. I would say, I don't know, maybe 10 years, give or take, it will take. But our approach is for the medical thing is that if you create the replica of your human body, entirely, it will take more than 10 years. That's for sure. But some organ by organ, our approach is rather than taking the whole body, say let's take the simulation of the heart as a starting. Then obviously the problem is a little bit more smaller. Well, it's still pretty big, but and then it's a little more manageable, at least I hope. So that's what the teams is defining the focus areas. And then if for that particular case, hopefully, a little less than 10 years or something like that, that the goal becomes a bit closer to that. But the end goal is continue to be 20 years, 30 years, something down the road. But yeah, that's how I see, and then how I kind of tell the researchers, can we just, create some initial milestone, define the initial milestone, something like that, before you get to the bigger goal.
Kazuhiro Gomi, CEO and President of NTT Research, all the best for your plans to upgrade reality for the betterment of mankind and moving the human story forward. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, Gomi-san.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.